You're listening to Never Heard of It, a Night Shift Radio production. Yetis.
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 Yetis powered by Blue. What? No.
Yeah, no? Maybe. That might be a thing.
Like, it's only been like 2 days since we talked, but I feel like a lot has happened.
A lot has happened. Yeah, in the past 2 days. I mean, it's, I don't know, the times they are at times.
Yeah. I got tomorrow is going to be our last big delivery, and then the house is just done. Like, we have
That's awesome.
No more big things to buy. Like, little things here and there. Like, I need a ladder
Sure.
so I can install my smoke detectors, my new ones. We have smoke detectors, don't worry. Like,
right. I was worried.
we are up to code, but I bought new ones to go with my whole Nest setup.
Right. So it goes, your house is currently on fire. Please
Yes.
vacate the premise immediately.
Please get the fuck out.
Yeah. Bitch, why aren't you running?
I hate little things like that, but like the last big thing is going to be the kitchen island that we got. And then sometime down the road, I think we're going to get like a nice new like 4-seater kitchen table. But for now, the like 2-top that we have is kind of perfect since no one's coming over for dinner anytime soon.
Right. Guess who's coming to dinner? No one.
Yeah, nobody. The whole point of this story is the last big thing for the living room showed up today. I surprised Ellen. I went ahead and got the media console that goes with those shelves that I bought.
Yeah.
I'll share with you a photo later so you can see. But you got the whole like one wall of cohesiveness. It's very, very nice. The table we might eventually get will be the same brand. It's Floyd. They're out of Detroit. It's made in America, Detroit. It's pretty cool.
That is actually pretty cool.
Really high quality stuff. For the most part, very easy to assemble, like very, very intuitive. The media console I got is like an expansion unit for the shelves, so it all like connects together. That was a tremendous pain in the ass. It took me like a couple hours of fighting and yelling and swearing and throwing things. So I definitely don't recommend getting that like after the fact for anyone who gets like the shelves to begin with. Like get it all, like do it all in one day and be done with it.
One shot. Yeah.
Holy hell, but like it looks nice.
Yeah.
This episode is not sponsored by Floyd Home out of Detroit, but it could be.
And that's the important thing to realize. This show currently is only sponsored by other Night Shift Radio shows. And that being said, hello and welcome to the Never Heard of It podcast. I'm your host, Michael Fight.
And I am Caleb. I had something for this. Oh, the intern. I don't know. Intern Academy. No, that doesn't work. I'm Caleb. Hi.
You got that one really good. You did good. Wind it up. Yeah, and as you may notice and heard, we are watching. We have watched the movie White Coats, also known as
Intern Academy. Which
I
thought I could pluck something from that, but I took it too far.
Yeah, so Intern Academy was its original title, but White Coats is what made it to film. It is White Coats is what the title comes up on in the movie itself. It is spelled correctly, so one up on Christmas Twister already, who also had an alternate name. So we already know what's up.
Christum's Twister.
The Christum's Twister Miracle.
It's a Christmas miracle.
So this is a Canadian film, and I'm going to go ahead and just say it right out the bat. This is a direct ripoff of the show Scrubs. Like, exactly.
I have never seen Scrubs. I think I've been vocal about my feelings about Zach Braff.
Sure.
He annoys the shit out of me. Sorry, Zach. I know you're listening, and I know that you're a big fan. But
sorry, man.
I can't reciprocate. I'm sorry. Although there was, I can't remember what it was, but like a couple of years ago, I heard him on something. I don't know if it was like a radio interview or like some project that he was a part of or something, and it started to redeem him in my eyes. I'm like, I don't want this. I don't want a feel good story about Zach Braff. I want to keep hating him. But that said, I guess I've kind of let that grudge go. It's fine.
Yeah,
but I still won't watch Scrubs. And
yeah,
for saying so.
How dare you?
How dare
Uh, yeah, I absolutely love the show Scrubs, but I'll be
Same.
honest, I have not liked other things Zach Braff has been in. Like Garden State's okay.
No, no.
I think it's way overhyped than of what it actually. I mean, it's a good movie, but it's the hype, like the love people have for it. I'm like, I mean, it's not that good. I mean,
The
like it's
soundtrack
kind
was the
of
best
good,
thing about it. Let's be real.
right? Yeah, I mean, totally. And then he's been in a couple other movies, and every other movie I've seen him in, I'm like, no, like not for me. That's not the one. And yeah, and he had a TV series for a while after Scrubs, and I don't think it lasted longer than maybe a season or two. But also, I think I watched like an episode, and I was like, "No, man, like you did your thing, and this is it. This is it for me. Like you did your thing, and then you're done." Whereas like Sarah Chalk, who started on Roseanne, she was Becky on Roseanne, and then eventually she was Dr. Reed
Was she Becky 1 or
in
Becky 2?
she was Becky 1 and
Okay.
then came back as Becky 1 again. After Becky 2 left, she came back as Becky 1.
It's very
Um,
confusing.
is very confusing. But then she was Dr. Reed, Dr. Elliot Reed on Scrubs, and then now she plays Beth in Rick and Morty. So, and I'm fine with that. She's done some good stuff. I've seen her in some other things. She did good. I'm down. Donald Faison will always be Murray from Clueless for me. Like, that's it. And who else is in that show that matters? Nobody. I'm sure a lot of other people matter, but it doesn't matter.
I'll give Zach Braff credit for one thing: his
Sure.
appearance in BoJack Horseman as famous actor Zach Braff.
See, I like that. That reminds me of there was a show called Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23, and it was,
Mhm.
bitch, but it was, starred out.
As
And
Jessica
Kristen
Jones,
Ritter.
Kristen Ritter, yes,
Kristen Ritter, yeah, and she's
Kristen the
hilarious
Knitter.
in it.
Is she
Yeah,
knit?
Kristen the Knitter. Yeah. But James Vanderbeek is in that show, and he
Yeah,
plays
he is.
James Vanderbeek, but he plays him as like, I'm James Vanderbeek, and it's hilarious, and he's so funny. It's absolutely ridiculous, and you absolutely have to watch that show. I think it's Don't Trust to Be in Apartment 23, I think was ahead of its time in terms of comedy. I think if that show were to come out right now, everybody would lose their mind about it because the comedy like lines up with like how the world works right now. I think the story would work really well now. Like I think people would appreciate the meta humor of James Vanderbeek and everything.
I want to watch it mostly just because of James Vanderbeek as James Vanderbeek.
As James Vanderbeek. Yeah. It's spectacular.
I do appreciate actors who will take a role like that that's very like tongue in cheek, poking fun at themselves.
Yeah, I mean they do really good. Now, speaking of actors that I don't know, are doing things that you're like, what? Dan Aykroyd is in this movie,
Yeah,
as is Dave Foley. It is a Canadian film, so we'll give him that. I don't know if Dan Aykroyd's Canadian, but I feel like maybe he's Canadian. I know Dave Foley's Canadian. I thought Dan Aykroyd might be Canadian. Yeah,
I think
he's
is.
born in Ottawa. Yeah.
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 Well, and this is was it written and directed? Yeah, written and directed by Dave Thomas.
By Dave
not
Thomas.
of Wendy's fame,
No.
but very much of mostly from Dan Aykroyd films fame.
Yeah. What was the it kind of sucks, but I always forget the name of the thing him and Rick Moranis did. Like what they were famous for, like the brothers. Yeah, brother Ian Thomas and I don't know.
It was in
Oh, the
Coneheads.
Mackenzie brothers. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Mackenzie brothers. Yeah.
Also in Strange Brew. So he's
Yep.
been around.
Yeah.
This dude's been around. Like this guy, and like it was
Which
great
again,
to see him.
like his stuff is really good, and it's very unfortunate because this movie. Normally, we save our things for the end. This movie sucked.
It was, it was almost good.
It was almost good, but like the majority of it was not funny.
No.
I don't think I laughed out loud at anything. Also, there were a few things that I was like, this is kind of offensive.
It
Like
was
even for
extreme.
2004, like I was like this isn't even like, oh, you're risque humor. I was like, this is just straight up bad. Like this is not
It was
acceptable.
it was also hard to tell, like, how much of it was like, "Haha, look at us taking risks," and how much of it was like, "We're going to present to you, like, these archetypes of the worst of humanity, and we're making fun of them, and we hope that you get the joke with us." It was hard to tell, like, which road they were taking. And
Yeah,
that's a problem to me because like do it one way or the other and commit to it and like make it clear what you're going for. Because if I can't tell if you're like riffing on versus you actually think this is funny, then it's not funny.
right. Right. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, we've talked about many times before where, you know, there's the idea of like risque humor or, you know, that kind of humor that's just like it's thoughtful and intelligent and it makes you laugh because you're like, aha, you're, you know, poking fun at something that's, you know, kind of controversial, but you're doing it in a really smart way. You know, a perfect example of a person who does this is like John Mulaney is a
Okay.
really
Yeah.
great example of a comedian that can do that sort of thing. You know, like back in the day, Richard Pryor was a person that could do that sort of thing, and he did it in a really smart way that wasn't just like white people, am I right? And everyone was like, you're right, they do that thing. You know, like he did very smart jokes. But there were a few jokes in this that, you know, on top of like, you know, a racist element or like maybe a sexist element or maybe even a classist element that was kind of like that was just kind of a very obvious low bar joke. Like it's not even a good one. It's like
And
too obvious.
where I almost want to give them the benefit of the doubt for like trying to do it as like a social commentary sort of thing. Is there's like the slightest bit of an effort on like the one black character in the entire movie to point out white privilege.
Sure.
Specifically like how much harder he had to work to get to like even this point of being like an intern and like even keel with all the others, and like one of the other interns tries to point that out like, oh, you know, we all worked hard to be here. He's like, yeah, but like some of us had it harder to get to here. And I did appreciate that point that they made, but it was such a, like a drop in the pan and like done.
Well, it
I'm
was
like,
dismissed at that.
yeah,
Like he even was like, "Oh, because you're black," and he was like, "Yeah, dude.
yeah,
Like
literally that.
I'm a black doctor, man. Like yes, this is like they could have gone in to be like, yes, this is actually really hard, you know. And you know that's something that like you know I will admit. So like you know in Scrubs, it's Zach Braff and Donald Faison, Kirk Turk and JD, and conversely though it's JD and Turk, in that order. But they don't ever really go into the detail of the race that much in the show.
Mhm.
Like everyone, you know, like you know, it's kind of brought up here and there, but they never like really dive into it into a serious thing. Again, Scrubs is more of a lighthearted comedy with a few, you know, touching moments dropped in, but it very much was described, you know, is a comedy series. But this one like it was pretty crazy. Like they definitely did a few things with like poking fun at Asian and Chinese,
Mhm.
to the Christine Lee character, which more specifically is from the Philippines, not from China.
Yeah.
So
Well, and oh
okay.
god, what's his name? The
The
Matt Frewer. Matt Frewer, who like usually to me is a very funny person. Um,
the
I
Morg
always
guy. Yeah.
yeah, like teaches them in the um oh my god, I'm drawing a blank on like the you know, pathology. Thank you.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me. Why am I thanking you? He teaches them pathology, basically like has them cutting up cadavers and
Right.
study them and whatnot. I usually find him to be a funny man, or at least like
Yeah.
a thoughtful actor. And in this part, he just has the shittiest dialogue,
Oh, he's
and like
terrible.
everything out of his mouth is either like racist or sexist or just like, "Look at me, I'm a goofy guy," and I'm like, "No,
Right.
dude." Like I always picture him, and I can never remember what it was. I think I found it once a long time ago, but I remember him from a TV show way back in like the 90s or even maybe late 80s, and he was the father, and his son borrowed a car and like accidentally like crashed it like through the fence or something like that. Basically, like got into an accident with it, and like the father was like super super protective of the car, and the kid like comes to try to tell him like, Dad, something happened with the car. He's like, you didn't use an abrasive cleanser on it, did you? It's like, in my mind, that's one of those lines that like shouts itself at like 3 a.m. when everything's
It just
quiet. I just hear his voice yelling, "You didn't use an abrasive cleanser."
it just
Just
sticks to it. Yeah.
like the juxtaposition of the actual damage to the car versus like that's the worst thing that he could think of in the moment.
Yeah, Shaky
Anyway,
Ground is probably the show you're thinking of.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, so, yeah, it was really weird. So let's begin. So first off, this movie is available, streaming for free on Tubi TV as well as IMDb TV.
What?
Yeah, so IMDb TV, for those of you unfamiliar, if you have Amazon Prime Video, it is a channel. It's a free channel within Amazon Prime, and IMDb TV it is kind of like a Tubi TV, but it lives as a channel inside Amazon Prime, or you can watch it directly via the IMDb app on your phone if you have it. And if you're a weirdo like me, you have the IMDb app downloaded because
Just about
I
to
do.
ask the question, and then I scrolled all the way down to the bottom of the page, and I see an Amazon company. I don't think I
And
knew that
yeah,
Amazon bought
IMDb
IMDb.
was bought by Amazon. I don't know, a few years ago.
What is the point? Like, some acquisitions by a company like Amazon make sense to me, but what is the point of acquiring IMDb?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's in the same sense of like, who is it? Warner Brothers that owns Rotten Tomatoes or something like that. One of those big companies own Rotten Tomatoes. It's the same idea. It's controlled, whatever. I mean, but the crazy thing is like IMDb, outside of the fact that Amazon owns it, is integral. Like when I work in film, you don't you don't like make a resume like a regular person. You
Mhm,
literally just email an IMDb link. Like there's no
mhm,
like, I mean, like you can, and a lot of times, people do write up like, oh, this film, but all it'll say is like this film, the director, your direct report, or whatever, if you were a department head, whatever position you're in, and that's it. Like it doesn't, there's no info, like nobody's like, oh, I was a blah. So it'll be like, you know, the Night House, production secretary,
mhm,
director, whatever, and producer, whatever, and that's it. There's no like these are my job duties because everyone knows what the job duties are for all the positions. But nowadays, like now when I work on a film, if I'm applying to a film, most of the time they call me. But when I'm applying to a film, all I do is I find whoever it is that I need to report to, and I just email them my IMDb link, and they're like,
mm,
"Oh, cool, yeah, you're
mm.
in." And that's it. So like IMDb has become the standard for the industry, but it's funny that it's purchased by Amazon to, who probably purchased it before they were even making original movies. So, um, wild, weird industry, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so those are the ways that you can watch this movie. It does show up as White Coats, but again, you will see it referred to as Intern Academy, as that's what its original name was. And again, this film was made in 2004. So
I want to
the
point out that
yeah,
this movie. Do you remember the movie Urban Legends or whatever? That was just all
hmm
about like oh, have you heard this urban legend? And then it would happen to someone and they would die, whatever. This
yeah, the
movie is
hook on the door and
like you mentioned how it's basically like a total ripoff of Scrubs, but it's like Scrubs doing urban legends. Like
yeah,
every scenario that happens in this movie essentially is lifted from like a medical related urban legend.
yeah. And what's funny is even in Scrubs, they often will be like, you've probably heard the story of blah. Well, it's not true. Here's how what actually, and they do a really good job of like what it really is like, and in fact, a lot of people have credited shows like Scrubs and Grey's Anatomy for saying like for really portraying what it's actually like, in that thing. So as an example, these people are interns, but they're walking around with white coats, and the white coat ceremony is like a really big deal and not something that happens like when you're just walking around as an intern. Maybe in Canada that's how they do it, but here in America that's not how we get our white coats, y'all.
Yeah.
um we pay for them like everyone
What's
else.
Let's not hold the American healthcare system as a standard for anything.
for anything. The standard of how not to do it.
Oh,
Um,
it stinks.
so a really interesting, a really interesting thing about this movie. So much like Scrubs, this movie does center around a group of incoming interns, and it is voiced over and journaled, like monologued,
Mhm.
by one of the main ones, and that is Mike Bonnert. Now, the really interesting thing about Mike Bonnert is we spend the good first half of this movie not even showing anything that he's doing. So
Because he
like
doesn't do anything worthwhile.
he doesn't the whole movie. It's really weird. Like this is definitely something that like I feel like Dave Thomas pitched this as a series and someone was like, "Nah, just make a movie and leave it at that."
When was
Be
Scrubs out? Like, would this have
2001.
been
This
okay?
was
So this
right
would
in the
have been
middle of it.
after.
Oh yeah, this
So
is definitely after Scrubs. Yeah, this was I mean this was at the point where Scrubs was, they were a third of the way through their season. They were already winning Emmys and awards,
yeah,
for shows. I mean, and Scrubs was on NBC. It wasn't like it was on some rinky dink, network. Like it was a big deal. Scrubs was, one of the highest rating shows of the time. It was like that and Will and Grace and something else. Like it was, it
yeah.
was very high acclaimed.
So like making this as a movie was already a bad enough idea. Like doing it as a
Oh
series
yeah,
would have been just a
even
mess.
worse.
There's
Yeah, I mean,
no
maybe
reason
if you
whatsoever.
right, if you did it as like a Canadian series and just hoped that people didn't have American NBC, sure. But making it as a movie, I mean, and again, like it's not just like, oh well, there's tons of shows and stories about interns at a hospital. Be like, yeah, but it's exactly the series, like R rated
Mhm,
though.
mhm, mhm,
Um
mhm.
yeah, so that's a weird thing. So it starts off and we meet our group of characters, and the majority of them don't matter. In fact, they're all very boring and have little to no personality. Or if they
Yep.
do have a personality, it completely changes halfway through the film, and not because of character growth. Literally, they just act like somebody different later on in the movie.
Mhm.
Mike Bonnert is a really great example. He starts off the movie, being like an idiot and like failing, and then in the end of the movie like he's confident and stuff, but it's not like a character growth because we don't see any actual character growth. All of a sudden he just turns into this person and you're like, wait, what the fuck? Like it's just
It's
really weird.
straight up a switch flip.
Yeah,
Like suddenly, like an emergency crisis situation happens, and now he's like the guy.
yeah, yeah,
The fuck?
it's very odd. And we also have Dale Dodd played by Pat Kelly. We have who else? Christine Lee, who we mentioned. We have
Mhm.
who is Jane McLean. We have Viva Lecoq, and I mean his name is his name is Viv Lecoq, but it's Viva Lecoq, and that's
I
amazing.
mean, did you catch that they paged at least twice throughout the movie for doctors by name, and one was Mike Hunt,
Mike Hunt.
which I
Mm,
actually
mm.
I went to school with a Mike Hunt. That was a very unfortunate name for him. And
Yeah.
there was also a Dr. Harry Balls,
Oh yeah,
who
they said
got a
Dr.
bit
Balls.
part,
Yep.
like got like a single line later on. Someone runs into him like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Doctor Balls."
Yeah,
I'm like,
he's
"Oh,
like,
that's him. That's
okay,
Harry
Dr.
Balls
Balls.
right there."
Yep. Oh boy. Yeah, I mean there was a few instances like the very first thing in the movie, they start describing this hospital as like a failing hospital. It's a
Mhm,
teaching hospital. Again, this is literally the first episode of Scrubs.
mhm.
And they talk about like, this is, it's a teaching hospital, so interns come here and they learn how to do medicine, but in the background all of these wacky things are going on. Like there's this running gag of two male patients who are just kind of like wandering around, and their things are on backwards, or they're on right, but their gowns are open in the back and you can see their butts.
Yeah, and they're
It
they're there for the entire movie too. Like we're led to
Yeah,
believe that like weeks, if not months, pass in time in this film, and in the end, those dudes are still just walking around high fiving each other.
Yeah, high-fiving each other with their gowns open. Yeah, that's the other thing. So, content warning. This is an R-rated film, so there is swearing, there is nudity, there is lots of sexual references, a lot of them,
Hmm.
and there is a bit of blood, although it is it's medical related. There's not like violence per se, but there is blood. People like you see surgery type things. You see like a bone sticking out of someone's leg, and at one point a bunch of organs are thrown around.
Like a
um
fucking snowball fight.
yeah. And so content warning right off the bat. Those are things that happen throughout the movie. But let's carry on. So our interns, they come in. We get the voiceover of like, oh, this is the start of this. Like we've just entered the program, and we meet right off the bat Dave Thomas, who is playing a character by the name of Dr. Omar Olson.
Hmm. Hmm.
So again, for those of you who have watched Scrubs and not this movie, he is a mix between Dr. Kelso and Dr. Cox. So he's very much like the in between, and he actually kind of looks like Dr. Kelso. So it's pretty interesting.
How
No,
dare
not
you?
Dr. Kelso. Yeah, Dr. Kelso. How dare you? But yeah, so he right off the bat he's walking them from room to room and quizzing them on things. Of course, most of them stumble on things because they literally just graduated, so they've done 6 years of medical school, so they don't really know everything yet.
Hmm.
And they're like, I don't know, and one of them will get a good answer and the other one will give a wrong answer, and he's like, well, I'm just failing all of you because I'm that kind of evil guy. And then he does like a
Oh,
cool,
you.
yeah, he's like, oh, you're the hard ass teacher with a heart of gold or something,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know. Is he? I don't know. He kind of is just
I
mean the entire movie.
He kind of comes around in the end, but like again, it's not like a scene of like crisis or scene of character growth or any kind of like redemption story or anything. Just like the crisis scene happens and like suddenly he takes everyone seriously and is nice or as nice as he gets.
For some reason. Yeah.
Which okay.
And of course we also have our one nurse who is helping everyone out. Is that Sarah Calder, right? Carly Pope?
Uh,
I don't know, man. I'll be honest with you.
yes,
I got
yes,
lost
they
with a
called
lot
her
of
Sarah.
characters. Yeah. So she's like I've seen some things. I've been around the hospital block nurse who kind of takes these interns under her wing and kind of gives them the motherly the tough motherly love, I suppose. So
Sarah's
again,
the
for those of you on Scrubs, it's Carla,
Sarah's the
but white.
blonde.
Sarah's the blonde.
Sarah's the blonde, the like older who I think is probably like the charge nurse.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that might be Linda Boyd. Cynthia Sky's the character name. I think.
Oh,
Trying to
yeah,
find
dude.
a good
Oh,
picture for
yeah, Cynthia
reference.
Sykes. Oh, yeah,
Sykes,
that's who
yeah.
it is.
I
Yeah,
can't
so
read
I'm
over
sorry.
her.
Yes, it was
Yes.
actually Linda Boyd. Linda Boyd's been in a few things. She was in my favorite Fast and Furious film, Tokyo Drift. Again, I say favorite, but like they're all really bad. Um, but so for those of you who are Supergirl or Supernatural fans, in Supergirl, she was Eve Tessemacher, a Tessemacher who was the wife of the evil guy. But she was also Moira in Supernatural for the run of the show. So there's that.
She was
Uh,
in Bly Manor too. In just one
oh, cool.
episode, but yeah.
I haven't seen that yet, and I really want to.
Oh, it's very good. Very
Yeah.
good.
Oh, and she was also in Arrow for a season called by the name of Phaedra Nixon. But yeah,
Mm.
she's done a few things. So she's that's another one that you're like, so why are you in this movie?
Yeah.
And who knows? But we also meet Mitzi, who was played by Christine Chatelain. She was in 40 Days and 40 Nights, Final Destination, Chaos Theory, The Collector. She was also in Supernatural for the run of the show. She was Jenny. She is Mrs. Chipping in Riverdale. And she's been in a few things. She was also in The In Between. Same thing with that. So must be the same casting agent. But yeah, so Mitzi, and then we've got our like, look at me, I'm the cool guy that hits on everybody. So that is Pat Kelly, who is Dale Dodd. It doesn't matter what he was in, but coincidentally he was in a thing called Urban Legend. But anyway, so Dale Dodd and Mitzi, one of the two interns, they end up actually hooking up, and she does a thing to him with her mouth.
She fillets him.
She does, indeed. And later on in the scene, they decide they're going to do mouth swabs to look at it under a microscope to kind of like see things. And they make a very big deal of being like, "Oh, she has a sperm in her mouth. Isn't this weird? Everybody go see why. I wonder why this is a thing." And she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave."
That's one of our urban legends.
That's one of the urban legends. Yes. That is also not a thing, because they just don't hang out there like that. That's not how they work, or how things in general work. Yeah.
Nope.
So before we get too far into the rest of this crap movie, let's go ahead and take a quick commercial break. Before we do, if you have not subscribed yet, please do so, and thank you. We super appreciate it. So again, if you have subscribed, you noticed that a couple of days ago for Christmas, we dropped Fat Man, which was a spectacular movie. So you would have noticed we dropped a bonus episode. So now would be the time to do that to get notified of those sort of things. So definitely do that. And of course, leave a rating and review if that's something you are willing to do and you're into it. You can also visit us on
Imagine how you would feel if you were listening to this now and you hadn't subscribed and were only now finding out about Fat Man. Like, how bad would you feel? Like, luckily, no one listening has failed to subscribe yet, so
sure,
they've all got it covered.
Right. I mean, that's just the type of people they are. They're wise like that. But yeah, if you're so inclined, you can visit us on social media at the Nahoit Podcast, the NHOIT Podcast, on both Twitter and Instagram. We see clips and stuff like that of past and previous and future episodes and all the happenings that are going on. And Caleb, though, we're also on the web. Where would they go?
Oh my goodness, I just pulled it up to make sure it's still there, and it sure enough it is. You can visit thenahoits.com. That'll take you right to our little slice of the web, where of course you can you can see the episodes that we've done recently if you want to click to listen from there, of course. But you're already subscribed, so you don't need that. Sure. You can also check out our upcoming schedule of episodes for the month, which I'm gonna need to update real soon. We're at the end of December here. Like, January is coming up on us. But of course, we do a little description of the movie, links to trailers so you can check it out, and also where you can find it streaming if available. Which all except Fat Man, everything was streaming for free on Tubi this month. So looky there.
Easy. Yeah, so it's super easy, man, to definitely check that out. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick break where you can hear about 3 of our brand new shows on the Night Shift Radio crew. We've got Shift Alt Q, a queer-focused video game podcast. We've got Latchkey Kids, which comes out tomorrow.
Yes.
So you should definitely check that one out, Latchkey Kids with Sarah Sweeney. And then, of course, we have Fight Jokes About Everything, a new comedy podcast that is Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So tomorrow's episode will be out, and that one will be about Wonder Woman 1984. Very cool. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we will finish up with whatever the name of this movie is, White Coats.
You're listening to a Night Shift Radio production. Night Shift Radio is a modern media company bringing you shows that entertain, inform, and most importantly, provide an escape. Never heard of it dives into the world of bad, obscure, and sometimes just weird movies. Follow along with the crew of Set Condition 1 as they experience the 2004 sci-fi hit Battlestar Galactica, one episode at a time. Each week on Left of the Dial, we explore a new record or revisit an old favorite. We'll bring in guests to talk about their own music and the state of the industry. The Superpod Hero Cast, guys with beers talking about movies with capes. They draw a random comic-inspired movie from Thor's helmet and offer thorough, insightful, and humorous commentary. And once a month, tune into the Storyteller series and get lost in the magic of a good old-fashioned radio drama. Learn more about these fine shows at nightshiftradio.com and subscribe on your favorite platform.
Hello and welcome back. I don't know, man. This movie was forgettable at best.
I told you that I listened to the first episode of Fight Jokes About Everything, even though I haven't watched The Mandalorian, right? I told you that?
You did? No, you
I told
didn't.
you that.
Yeah.
I said it in Slack, but I guess maybe it wasn't in a conversation that was directly with you. But I enjoyed it. It's a good show.
Oh.
Well done. Well done.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that.
I learned something about the show that I would not have learned were it not for that episode. And even though it was very much a spoiler, I actually enjoyed going down a further rabbit hole learning about it.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of cool things. I mean, especially if you were a Clone Wars fan, Bo-Katan, man. And you know, the big I mean, it's Boca Raton. Yeah. Also, it's been like over a week, so we can talk about the fact that Luke Skywalker was
what? No, I'm just kidding.
I listened. I know. Well, Luke Skywalker's in it. It was fucking awesome.
That actually was pretty awesome.
It was pretty fucking awesome. So back to White Coats. I have to say, and I know I've been saying it this entire episode, but I am actually, even though it's one of my favorite shows, I am actually offended that this movie exists because it is so blatantly ripped off of the show Scrubs. Like Grey's Anatomy is not the same plot because they start off, they're not interns when they start off, they're just full-on doctors and they're surgeons working in a hospital, and it's roughly the same idea. But Grey's Anatomy is more like a drama, but Scrubs is like that 30-minute comedy thing. And it was fine that they both existed at the same time because they kind of both served different purposes, even though they were roughly around the same subject. But man, this was pretty fucking straight on. Like they had the voiceover in the same group of interns that roughly made out the same racial makeup, give or take. Like it was pretty blatant. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty blatant. Yeah. Even
Dale Dodd, whatever, it feels a little too much they wanted him very much to be JD.
Yeah. So JD plays definitely more of a Mike Bonnert. He's more of like an awkward thing, but like when push comes to shove, I guess not even that. Like JD still is a smart doctor. Like that's the thing of the show, is like he's still really good at his job. And Dale Dodd, like it's really odd because so the character, they introduce him right off the bat, and he's like, oh, I only, joined medical school so I can meet girls, and, and I met you, so wink, wink, blah, blah. But then it's like really weird because then like he's like this player, and then all of a sudden he just like sticks with this one girl for the rest of the movie. But there's no like, why is he all of a sudden faithful when for the first 20 minutes of the movie he showed that he's not? Like he was like hitting on two women at the same time and like seeing which one would go for it. Like it was really weird.
But he also goes from like in the very beginning of the movie, while Bonnard is like a bumbling idiot, Dale is more of like he like he's not even trying. Like he's just he's a fuck up, but he's doing it intentionally. Like he's trying to get a rise out of people, and then like halfway through, he suddenly becomes like a serious doctor who like clearly knows his shit. And like, where was this guy? He was just like trying to play it cool and like not let everyone know what a good doctor he was and how smart he was. Like
it was such a weird character shift because it just happens. Like there's no like. We don't get drops of the development. It literally is just all of a sudden he's this monogamous good doctor, and you're like, wait, what? Like this is a movie, not like this isn't a 3-season character arc, where you can do that. Like you literally like 5 minutes ago we're getting a BJ from like some random nurse, and now you're this. Like I don't understand. It was really weird. And also there was like this really weird thing where so he does end up with the one girl, and he buys her a Cartier watch, And
Yeah.
we're to understand that this is a very expensive watch, and he's just a medical intern. Like, he's not, I mean, like, he's not a private practice doctor. Like, medical interns don't make a lot of money, like, they actually make very shit money, and they have, hundreds of thousands of dollars of school loans, seemingly, to take out. So I thought, I was like, is there going to be, because like they kept, so the other thing is like so Dan Aykroyd is the chief of staff of this
Hmm.
failing hospital. So it's Dr. Kip. And one of the things we learn is that he's been selling equipment in the hospital, basically to keep it running. But it's really weird because, like, this is again where the movie gets really weirdly and poorly written, is because you think it's because he's just like a shisty guy who's just like, well, I'll sell money and let's make some money. But then, like, you
Hmm.
learn that it's just because, like, the cost of running a hospital is so high. And, like, he's like, hospitals are shutting down all over the place. So you get really confused, as like, well, is he doing it just to, like, keep the hospital open, or is he doing it to, like, make money? It's very, very confusing.
Yeah.
And then they drop this plot line later with Dodd buying this really expensive watch, and they keep, like, saying it. I'm like, oh, maybe, like, Dodd's crazy wealthy, and he's just going to be like, oh, well, I'll save the hospital. Here's $10 million or whatever, for operating costs. And, like, it almost felt like it was going that direction. And then it was just like, and then, spoiler, like, just randomly in the very end of, I'm talking like in the last 5 minutes of the movie,
Yeah.
there's a crazy, like, 72 car pileup, and one of the people that gets saved by this hospital happens to be a tech billionaire, and he basically just, like, buys the hospital
Yeah.
for, like, thanks for saving my life, and so then everything's fine. And it's really weird and comes out of nowhere. It's very fucking weird, man. It's a weird
Yeah.
movie.
I will say credit where it's due. Dan Aykroyd's character is the one character in the entire movie that doesn't have any kind of character growth whatsoever.
Nah, yeah.
He stays just as weird and, like, quirky and, like, mostly not present as ever.
Yeah, I mean, he also has maybe 10 minutes of screen time.
And
Um,
yeah, most of that
yeah,
is in a hot tub,
yeah, and most of that is in a hot tub, which,
which
I
is
mean, Dan
kind of
Aykroyd is
hilarious.
probably, he's probably the best part of the movie. And again, he's maybe in 10 minutes of it. And it's actually kind of frustrating because, like, Dan Aykroyd very much obviously was a cameo for Dave Thomas. For it was a favor. He was like, "Oh, sure, I'll be in your movie. I'll film 4 scenes, and and then fuck off and take my paycheck." But it's very weird. And we learn in the end of the movie, where there's this pile up, and he's like, "Oh my god, we need more doctors." And then Dr. Kip walks out with, another woman on his arm, and they're like, "Oh, Dr. Kip, thank God you're here. Like, can you help us?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not a real doctor." He's like, "I have a doctorate in hospital management." And
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh." And he's like, "Well, good luck. See ya." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like, okay. It's
That
just,
even a thing?
I mean,
Can
maybe I would assume you could probably get your doctorate in most, like, things, but, like, I don't know, man. That just feels
feel
weird.
like having a PhD in hospital administration and running a hospital without ever having any, like, medical training whatsoever is very, like, that's a very American thing. I feel like that's definitely something that happens in hospitals all around this country,
Yeah.
where, like, some fuck that went to business school is, like, running the hospital to get maximum profits.
Yeah. And again, that's what we're led to believe is what he's doing, but that's, not actually the case. It's
No
not the
offense to
case.
all you fucks out there that went to business school.
He did that shit on purpose. Yeah. Um, Also goes without saying, thank you, essential workers, for everything you do. Our frontline workers,
Yes.
we very much appreciate you. Me personally, very much appreciate you. Definitely in the most recent times. So we appreciate that. We appreciate you. We will knock this movie, but this is in no way knocking on those in the medical industry at all. Needs to be said. Shouldn't have to be said, but we're gonna say it just so you know. We appreciate you, and this is not a knock on you. This is a knock on bad filmmaking.
And that's right in our wheelhouse.
That is our lane. We're staying in that lane. So there's also Caleb, you mentioned about the urban legends. We get another urban legend of the intern, the worker doctor who is stripping to pay her way through medical school. Now, that is an urban legend. Has it happened? Maybe. I mean, like,
Almost
I'm
definitely.
sure. I mean, I'm sure somebody did that either to pay for medical school or just for funsies, which both are acceptable. Well, having to do it to pay for school is not acceptable
No.
because that's not, you shouldn't have to resort to that to doing anything else to pay for school, whether no matter the work that it is. Sex work is legitimate work,
Hell yeah.
but you know, yeah. So it's fine that they do that. But it's just interesting because like everybody ends up going to a strip club and they end up seeing her up there and she's like, oh no, I'm embarrassed. But then she's not really. It's really weird. And then we have this very awkward moment where Bonnard, our sort of main character, who I guess hasn't really talked up until this moment, even though he's been like monologuing this whole movie, where he goes in and he meets with her in the back and he's like, oh, it's okay, like you don't have to be embarrassed. And it's just a really awkward scene
And then he
in her
starts taking
dress, in
off
her
his
hospital.
clothes
Oh yeah, so he
to,
takes off her clothes to be like, see, I'll do that so you're not
which like
embarrassed.
that would absolutely get you kicked out. Like, don't try to make a point and like be like some weird hero in a strip club by taking off your clothes. Not if you want to
Right.
stay.
Right.
And like just if that idea pops into your head, just think about road rash and like all the places you can get it when they physically throw you out.
Yeah. Or think about the video game Road Rash because it was a cool Nintendo game.
Or think about the Battletoads rash, zits, and pimple.
Yes.
And
Yes.
scene.
Fucking Battletoads, dude. So good. You remember Battletoads and what was it?
Battletoads
Not
and Double Dragon, the Ultimate
Double
Team.
Dragon, right? Yeah.
Yes, I
Dude, that
remember
was
Battletoads and Double Dragon, the Ultimate
such a
Team.
cool fucking thing. Man, I love video games.
I spent a lot of time thinking about that.
Still do. Yeah, and then like so she takes him, like she's instantly turned on by this and takes him back to his apartment, or to her apartment, where we find that she has a pole there, and she tells this really messed up story that like should have had more attention to it. She's like, oh yeah, my ex-boyfriend bought me this stripper pole so I could do that in front of him and his friends. I'm like, wait, what
Mm.
kind of
And then
fucked
they
up.
broke up, and I got to keep the pole.
Like, and the trauma, like that's kind of messed up. Like, this is a very messed up story.
I do appreciate when she hands him a cocktail that she calls an Everpink, and he's like, "What is this?" She's like, "Pink lemonade and grain alcohol," which by grain alcohol, I'm sure she literally means Everclear.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's a
Fun
drink and a
fact:
half.
the agency I used to work for represented Luxco Spirits, who make Everclear, and they're you can still find the website. They did a whole like web campaign of like bougie like artisanal cocktails with Everclear as the base.
Hmm.
It was a really like really thoughtful ad campaign.
Yeah.
It was still fucking Everclear, but it was a really well done campaign.
Interesting. I don't think I've
Yeah.
had Everclear, but I do remember the band Everclear.
Oh my
And that
goodness,
directly
yes.
ties to the fact that we that our marketing manager has been um,
Yes.
talking about Eve 6 lately a lot.
The dude from Eve 6 has just been like lighting up Twitter lately, and
It's
it's
been
hilarious.
spectacular.
And he'll just message like at reply to random people, like famous people, musicians, actors, whatnot, and literally just ask them, "Hey, did you like the Heart in a Blender song?"
Which is so funny. I think what my favorite thing was like, dudes in 90s bands, do you wear your wallet chained to the chiropractor or something like that? It is just phenomenal. Like, that is just like top tier Twitter content.
And people are trying to be like, "Oh, I think the E6 Twitter account's been hacked or something," and he's like, people literally think like a '90s band guy can't have fun on Twitter or something
Yeah,
like that.
right.
Like,
Right.
good for you, dude.
Yeah.
Horoscope is fucking bad, like wall to wall bangers.
Dude,
Horoscope is such a great record.
that's a really good. I mean, they're two like big albums who I thought were really good. Too. Horoscope's the one with the anime girl on the front, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I like that one, and I think I like the other one. I think which was Inside Out. Wasn't there? That was like the big one.
That was the single. That's the Heart in a Blender song.
Yeah, but
I
I
think the
thought the album
record
was
might have
named that.
been. I thought it was self-titled. I'm looking for the discography now.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's self-titled from 1998, Eve 6.
Man,
Um, but
1998.
yeah, Inside Out is like how they got famous.
Yeah. Oh, they did. I wonder if your brother knows about this, but they did tell the story about the third eye blind thing. Did you see that?
Yes.
Fucking great. Where he stole a bunch of candy and said that he was the bassist from Third Eye Blind or something from a hotel. He's like, yeah, I'm the bass player from Third Eye Blind.
I believe that
Oh,
very much.
that's brilliant. Brilliant. Anyways, I don't know. Back to White Coats. A bunch of stuff happens. They're just really like they start the movie off just being like, oh, we're just young and we're green and we're wet behind the ears doctors, and then eventually all of a sudden we just working really hard and we're doing the thing, and we're it's long nights and you work 12-14 hour shifts, which is true. And then all of a sudden, like, for some reason, the three male main characters, so this is Dodd, Bonnet, and
Marlon.
Thomas, yeah, Marlin, all end up having to go down to get some organs for like a teaching thing they're going to do, and they end up like having an organ fight where they throw the organs at each other, and one gets wayward and slaps Dr. Olson in the face.
Which is hilarious. You
Right.
see him walk in the back and you're like, oh, he's getting some organs to the face.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it happens.
Yep.
That's one of the few truly funny moments in the movie because like, it's gonna happen.
Because it was happening. Yep. And so it happens, and they're obviously, this is a huge deal. Not only is it lost money, lost supplies, but it's insanely unethical. But they're about to be expelled. And Bonnart's dad. So we learned that Bonnart's mom and dad are famous doctors. Mom is a famous gynecologist or OBGYN, and the dad is a something or other, which I don't know. It was very stupid. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
Bonnard has like this moment where he now is like, okay. And he's like, sticks up for himself or whatever. And then, but they should be expelled. Like, I don't feel bad for them. Like, that was the thing in the movie. It's like this point of contention that all three of them, they're like, what do you mean we're expelled? Be like, dude, you threw human organs around. Like, you cost you cost a failing hospital tons of money, and you did something that's insanely unethical and morally wrong. Like, you should be expelled. You should not be doctors. You are terrible. And then just as like this is about to happen, like Bonnard ends up quitting. He's like, no, like his friends were going to take the blame so he could stay and be a doctor because his dad like bribed him. And then he's like, no, I quit. And he leaves. And just as the three of them are like, oh my God, I guess we can't be doctors anymore, the 72 car pileup happens, and they're thrust back in to do whatever. And it just, I don't know, man, it just didn't make sense.
And they all become heroes, and like their brush with expulsion is just forgotten, and they get to be doctors. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah, so that is White Coats. So should you watch this movie? No, I'll be honest with you. No, I cannot think of any redeeming factors for this film. If the idea of this appeals to you, and if you have not already, go watch Scrubs. It's on Hulu. That would be my recommendation. but I cannot recommend this at all.
Yeah.
It's not funny. There's a lot of racist and sexist jokes that don't land very well. And you could say, like, if this movie had been made in 1984, maybe you'd be like, well, it was 1984, but like this is 2004, and even in Canada, I feel like it should have been. I don't know. I feel like someone should have stepped in and been like, "Hey, dude, I don't really think you should do this."
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Just
Um,
don't.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I can't recommend this movie. I don't think it has anything. It has nothing to it. Um,
Agreed.
uh, yeah, but so anyways, so that's the episode, and that wraps up. This wraps up November or December. What month are we in? I don't know.
This was the last episode of December, which is the
Yeah.
last episode of 2020.
Holy cow.
And that also puts us very, very close to the end of our third year of making episodes.
That is insane. We've been doing this a very long time.
We have.
Yeah, so
we've seen some shit.
So we're coming up on our third year anniversary. And we're coming up on our 1 year anniversary of Night Shift Radio.
Yeah.
Coming up on the 1 year anniversary of Left of the Dial. That's in January.
Christmas Day, so 2 days ago, was when we dropped our 52nd episode. So like 1 full year in the books.
That is wild. And then, and we'll have a few other, I guess, big milestones. But I mean, the 3 years of doing this, 1 year of Night Shift Radio, and all that we've accomplished. We're now 8 podcasts deep, 1 on the way, and a lot of other stuff. So
exciting.
It is pretty exciting. So that being said, hey, thanks a lot for joining us for all this. So next week, the first episode of the year, we're starting right off the bat with a movie called Nobody Dies, which is pretty interesting. We also have another really cool one, which I'm excited to watch, and it might be absolutely terrible. But it's called Bring Me the Head of the Machine Gun Woman. And I'm very excited for that one. And I think it's going to be good. It's probably going to be terrible, but I'm really excited for it anyways.
It's an amazing title.
It is amazing. That's the only reason why I chose the movie. But yeah, so thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And we will see you next time.